this is the Input Club mass drop. What else is this thing called? K-type, right? K-type. I don't like this thing at all. I bought it on mass drop, and it's very pingy. A little hard to hear it here. See if I can. Maybe you can hear the. Just pings like crazy. I even put some shelf liner in there, and it didn't improve it. It's just it's a thin, hollow aluminum case, so it just doesn't sound good. My dog is barking now. So it's awful. The stabilizers are just junk. Just this one especially, junk, absolute junk. And I took it apart to try to fix those stabilizers, and they are some specific type that's like designed. I don't know if they're designed for this case. So maybe this is just this is just plate mounted, and I just don't use plate mounted stabilizers usually. My dog is going nuts. I don't use plate mounted stabilizers usually, so I just don't like them. But also these are terrible in their own right. So I tried everything to rescue this board. I put liner inside to try to dampen the pinging, and I lubed and clipped the stabilizers, and I even Band-Aid modded them, but they're cheap and garbage. They claimed they were real cherry stabilizers, but I don't think they are. I don't know. I don't know enough about that, but anyway, it's garbage. But the one benefit of it is it has a holtite board, a hot swappable board. So the only reason I kept it and didn't just get rid of it is it's actually a decent way to put switches in and get a feel for what they generally feel like. So I have these box reds in here, which I don't like at all. Let me pull this microphone down a little bit. It's not so echoey. Let's see if that's better. I don't like these box reds at all. I actually bought them for a keyboard that I'm building for my sister, or will eventually. But I figured I'd throw them in here to see how they felt. And now that I've done that, I don't think I'm gonna make my sister have to use these either, because I don't know. I don't really like the way they feel. They have the benefit, the box switches have the benefit of like moisture is less likely to damage the switch because they've got like a channel in there that can release it, but I don't know. I don't know enough about switches like in detail. I'm not like a switch I don't know. I watch videos of people talking about switches, and they just know so much about actuation points and pressure and max blah blah blah. I don't know. I just how they feel. These just don't feel great to type on. There's too much bounce in a way that doesn't feel good. And maybe it's also not helping that when you type on the K-type, it just sounds like absolute garbage. So, I don't know. The reason I bring it up is I have a bunch of different switches and that I haven't screwed around with. So I've got I think these are R8, but technically R2 or R1 even, I don't know. But I think they're round 8 Telios. I want to say Telios are all 67 grams, but I don't know. Telios switches. Guess I could use my close-up here. So these are Telios switches, which are the teal linear version of the Zeal PC Zelios, which I used almost exclusively in almost all the first boards that I built because I liked the way they felt. So those are, the Zelios are, these are linear. Telios are linear, and the Zelios are the other, which now, of course, is escaping my head. Not linear. They're not clicky, they are tactile. They have a bump. These don't have a bump, these are linear. And then I have, so I've been watching other people build switches, and people built, the top clack guys built what they called holy pandas, which are made from panda switches, which I've never used before. These guys are linear, it feels like, yeah. The panda switches, which are these guys here. I actually don't know what their weight actuation force is. And halo clears, which came on this K-type, and it's actually kind of worked out for me because I have this K-type board, but I pulled the switches out, and at first I thought, oh, well, I don't know if I'll ever use these, but then it turns out that the Holy Pandas are using these stems. And these, oh God, these are chunky. So these are tactile switches, and they are very, that bump is a little scratchy to me, but, and these are gone now, forever, or I guess for the foreseeable future, because these were part of this whole mass drop drama, where Mass Drop and Input Club had a falling out, and Mass Drop holds the copyright, I guess, on the Halo switches, which they're keeping, and so Input Club went and just immediately created a new set of switches called Hako instead, I think is what it is. It's basically the same thing, or I guess, but I think they're box style. I don't remember. Anyway, so I've got a bunch of stuff here, and I don't have a great plan for what I want to build. I've sort of let stuff pile up a little bit in the planning of just trying to stream these things. So I've got a couple of different PCBs, and I got a couple of different cases, and I got a lot of switches. So this is the Mechanisk, I don't know actually how he pronounces that, case, and it is heavy as hell. I don't even know how much this weighs, but it's like, it weighs a lot. It's just a solid chunk of aluminum. This guy's popular. He just recently did a case. This one's called Clip, or Clippe, I'm not sure. Klippe. And he just did one called Fjell, Fjell, I think is how it was spelled. And that one people loved, but it was a raffle, which I did not get in. And that one was beautiful. Lots of videos show it, and it's very pretty. And also weighed like 4 pounds, something like that. Big part of customs lately has been just the heaviest boards you can get. Not just the case themselves, but people put weights in. So like the M65A that I'm using right now is my primary keyboard, which is this one. This one has the brass weight on the inside. It's got a polycarb bottom, but I think that's, or nylon? I can't remember. It might be nylon. And then the brass weight on the bottom. This weight's actually pretty minor. The aluminum top case is kind of heavy enough without this weight. I don't know if the weight was necessary, but it's super pretty. You can see here. A little blur. It's hard to get focus on it because it's very reflective, but it's very pretty. Oh, and it picks up fingerprints like crazy. So weight is a big deal, I guess. So I've got this. If I can plug this back in. Possible to plug this in without looking, feels like. There we go. Okay, so I've got that case, which is big and heavy, but very plain, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And I've got this Lambo. I did a Zeal 60 build into a Lambo case like 6 months ago, and I'm not a huge fan of Lambo case, so I could just take the Zeal 60 PCB and move it into this case, and maybe that would actually be just what this case becomes. But I also have the one that I've really been wanting to build. Whoops. One that I've really been wanting to build is this Keyboard Fans. Oops, don't need this. Let's open this up. This Keyboard Fans Tina C, which is just a Tina case in the C variant, which is the HHKB style. Great. So this one is dark gray, like a MacBook-esque, Apple-esque gray. It's actually, unfortunately, not quite the same color. I wish it were. It's very hard for people to get that exact color. People have come close, but never quite gotten there. So what you actually end up with is like 5 different versions of this color. So this one's a little more on the blue-purple side. I've got one that's more on the brown side. Anyway, this is the blocked corner case, which has become kind of my favorite after using an HHKB for like 6 months. It's kind of become my favorite layout. Because once I started using 60% keyboards, I stopped using arrow keys. I just switched I try to always build keyboards that are programmable with the QMK software, firmware, if I can, because QMK is super simple to build, and then you can just basically take your config from one place to another. So this is the one I've been wanting to build for a while. The weird thing about this one, and the reason I've got this like half put together monster here, is I was trying to figure out the screw hole or the screw standoffs on this board, on this case, are like slightly off from what a 60% is normally supposed to be. I think all 60%, if I remember correctly, are based on Poker. Poker's the one who kind of like decided on this random layout of these screws. And most people get pretty close. So initially I'd been planning on using this Centrac S60X PCB because these are pretty cheap, and I've used them before. I used one before and it worked really well. The only downside is it's RGB underglow LEDs are a little oddly spaced. Like they're spaced off to the left a little bit, because this is obviously the top. So they're spaced off to the left a little, which does create a bit of a dimness in this corner, depending on which colors you use. It's not that noticeable though. So anyway, I bought this S60X because I looked at the Tina case and I saw that it had what I assumed was Poker, like the standard 60 here. But then I got they sent the Tina with a plate. This is stainless, maybe. Yeah, looks like stainless steel. I don't think that's aluminum. Yeah. And I looked at this plate, and it didn't line up with the PCB correctly. Like, it's close. The 2 edge screws don't line up. So when I looked at it, I thought, oh, crap, that's not gonna work. But the Centrac 60 fits in here. Let's just take this apart. This has got a little weight in it too, like a little teal weight. And it's got some recessing on the screws that are a little annoying because I can't use the little kit that I actually prefer, which is the iFixit, but the iFixit doesn't quite go as deep as this one needs to go to get these 3 screws here. Did I not put the, let's see. Are you in there? No, that screw head is just too small. So my thought is I will test this, because what I ended up doing is when I saw that the Tina was misaligned, I thought, okay, well maybe Keyboard Fans expects that you use this with the exact PCB that they want. What is going on here? That they want you to use. I think these. Oh, that one's coming out. So I went and ordered they have a, I think there's this called DZ60, DH60. I think it's a GH60 clone, if I remember correctly, or something like that. I don't know what's going on with the screwdriver. I can't tell if that, oh yeah, it did, okay. I hate this screwdriver. I much prefer this iFixit kit version. So anyway, I bought that PCB because I thought maybe I just needed to use their exact PCB, and their PCB is also QMK. It uses QMK, and at the end of the day, that's actually like mostly what I care about, because a lot of the other, so generally what I've found so far in this hobby is that there's two there's tends to be two. Come out of there. There tends to be two firmwares that I've seen the most. One is QMK/TMK. Or QMK is just, I think, a branch off TMK anyway. But or there is Bootmapper Client, and Bootmapper Client is easier to configure for people who don't want to like write any code or configure anything via hex files and such. But it's limited into what it can do. You can't do. QMK has this really neat thing. There are a lot of really neat functionality. Just seeing if there's any. I can see kind of a line. This is a part of the thing. I don't know if you can see this in here, but it's part of the thing with getting into the hobby of mechanical keyboards is you have to be okay with the fact that if you like Apple hardware and then you go to anybody else, you start to realize how difficult it is to do things like anodize evenly and brush evenly and all those different coatings and stuff, because you just get used to the fact that, oh yeah, there's kind of like a noticeable vertical line right here in this one, but it'll be on the side. But your best case scenario is you just hope the very front edge is clean. So anyway, there's QMK and Bootmapper Client. Bootmapper Client can't do a couple of things that QMK can do, things like magic keys and stuff. And one of the things I use the most in TMK, or QMK I should say, is I switched at some point to using spacebar plus JIKL as arrow keys. So you hold space, J is left, I is up, K is down, L is right. As I'm a lefty, so I use my mouse with my left hand, so that's the way I can use the arrows like that. I could never get used to the HHKB style, which was like function key plus vertical arrows. And it felt like a weird stretch for my hand. So I got used to doing space plus those, and I also create like splash keys. So what I do is I have space plus JIKL. These are the arrows. But because I'm constantly doing things where I write code and then I'm looking at the screen because I touch type, so I'm looking at the screen, and sometimes I'll take my hand off the keyboard to the whatever, and then I go to put it back and I'll miss the J and I'll try to go left and I'll hit the H. So what I learned over time was to actually make these kind of soft targets. So usually now I do JIKL are the arrows, left, up, down, right. But then I also do H as left, U and O as up, NM and comma as down, and semicolon as right. So that way, if I miss it by a little bit, I'll still get what I expect. And what QMK supports is you basically make this a special kind of toggling key where if it's tapped, it's a space bar, and if it's held, it becomes the layer toggle. And then it took, a month, basically, to get used to that. To switch away from moving my hands over to an arrow key set, which I think a lot of people would say, well, that's pretty stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you use a smaller keyboard and do that? But I don't know. Why not? Why am I doing any of this? Look at my desk. It's full of garbage that nobody on Earth needs to have. I don't know. It's fun. And the benefit is once you get used to that and you try to stick to boards, to PCBs that support QMK, I've been able to take my QMK stuff with me to the Hazu-controlled HHKBs that I'm looking at my shelf of insanity. Like everything on my shelf supports that. So I can pick up any keyboard from over there. They've all basically got the same layout and I can use it that way. And so I try to stick to QMK. Anyway, that was all that to say that when I got this Tina, and I was really excited about it because I really wanted to get the Duck Viper, which was like a very limited run, one-time HHKB style aluminum case that people coveted, and I did not get that. So Tina's like the cheaper mass-produced version, but it's so far from looking at the hardware, like they did a pretty good job with it, except for this thing where the screws are misaligned. So I can fit the Centrac PCB. It will fit. And basically the two side screws won't be screwed in. That doesn't actually really matter because I'd have four screws holding it. But because of that, what I really need is wasn't really thinking through here. I need a couple of cups here that I can put these screws in. But for right now, you guys just Just somebody tell me if you see a screw fly off the desk. Hopefully it won't. And what I'm gonna test is I bought their DH or DZ. I forget what it's called. DH? DH60? Did I say it? Does it say it? No. I don't remember. Well, God, it's got some gross soldering on it. This is Swiss cheese, though. Like, if you look at this, even compared to the Centrac board, which has... All right, they're not that much different. If you compare, though, the Centrac one... the Centrac one is this one. It definitely has, you know, plenty of support, but man, this keyboard fan's one, like, good lord, it is Swiss cheese crazy in some of these spots. I'm not a huge fan of that, but whatever. So let's see if it fits perfectly, and I'm betting you that the way this was designed, yep, the way it was designed was to fit this exact PCB. Yeah. So you can see, I don't know if you can see because it's a little far away, but let's see if the close-up will. No, you can't really see it there anyway. You have to take my word for it, but so all these center posts were lined up either way, but on this one, the two edges are also lined up. And one other benefit of using this one, oh, that's interesting. So this PCB, okay. So their PCB also has additional hole, one additional hole, which are over these low bits that the Centrac does not have. So I would have to actually, again, not a huge deal, but I'd have to like electrical tape over these guys. And they both run QMK, and they both have backlight support or underglow, and this one actually has better underglow. It's even, it's more, but it's even. So I think maybe we'll just go with this one for this case. And we could build this one and put this one in the clip or the clipe case. So that'd be two different boards. But this just goes and goes anyway as a hobby, so why not? Maybe we'll do that. Okay, but there's one downside. And it's related to holtites. Holtite is like a little... They come in different materials, but it could be gold, it could be gold, or I don't know what the standard metal ones are made of. But anyway, they're these little tiny, they're effectively like little clips, and you can put them in the PCB holes, and you kind of jam them in using a slightly hot iron, and then you can hot swap switches without soldering them from that point on. I've never hole-tighted a board because I don't actually know why I've never done it. It just has never really been a thing I felt like I had to do until recently, where I was like, oh man, what if I want to switch things that I don't want to desolder? Desoldering is not a huge deal, but it's a pain. So the one downside is that the Centrac 60 PCB supports hole tighting, and the keyboard fan's PCB does not. The holes are too small, but here's where it gets kind of crazy. Or not crazy, but maybe boring, I don't know, for any other human beings on Earth. What I had thought to do was make holy pandas, which use these panda switches at the whatever this thing is called, the enclosure, not enclosure, can't think of the word. It uses the base, basically. And panda switches, oh, where's the close-up? Panda switches are kind of hole-tighted by default. Boy, that focus is pretty bad, huh? I'm gonna have to make that a manual focus kind of job. All right, let's try this one. This is growing. I have to get used to how this works. Let's see if I can show you here. Also hard to see. All right, so I'm gonna have to work on my close-up game here because this is a little silly. Anyway, it's got basically hole-tight things on it already. So technically speaking, you can just drop this into a PCB and you don't have to solder, I think. Though, actually, I don't see how that could be true because these holes are not tight enough. Oh, you know, this might be why. Let's try sticking this in here for a second. No, that's not true anyway. I see, okay, so actually, I'm betting if I soldered if I soldered these in and then I pulled this switch out, it would leave the holtites behind, and then you could put any other switch in. So actually, that's pretty cool. And that will work in here because these fit in here. All right, so that's not even an issue. Okay. Interesting. Boy, it's really loose. It's really loose base. One thing that I really like about Zeal's designs is that the PCB block on his design, so like the main center piece of plastic is always a much tighter fit than any other switch I ever use. And so it has a really nice tight feel when it gets out. I've got definitely a mental problem where I cannot stand it. Huh, those holes are not aligned appropriately. I don't like switches being crooked at all. Yeah, God, the Zeal switches, they jam into the PCB in a way that's like real tight. Like it is not a, God, I can't even get it out. Whew. Whereas this one, if I put this in, it just sort of sits in there. It doesn't grab on at all. Yeah, it's really loose. It's not a huge deal. I prefer that when a switch can really, I can't even get it out though. I prefer when a switch can really jam in there. My kids just got home, so dog's barking. So one thing that I really hate, and that I learned real quickly because my first board, I didn't notice this, and this is like a year or two ago, year and a half ago. It's really easy to get your switches slightly misaligned when you solder them, so they could be like a little bit too, not seated all the way, or a little twisted, or you get like a whole row is seated perfectly, and then one switch is turned and we're talking like, 1/4 of a millimeter of a turn. But then when you actually put keycaps on, you look at the keyboard, you'll see that key is crooked. And also, if you don't get them all very flush to the board, when you look at the board from an angle like below or to the side, you'll see that not all the keys, the bottom of the keycaps don't align. Like one key will be slightly higher, one key will be like a little higher on the front and lower on the bottom, and that drives me absolutely crazy. I think anybody who may or may not know me in general, I have a bit of an obsessive streak with stuff like this. So one thing that I focus a lot on when I'm actually building is to make sure that my keys are aligned, or my switches are aligned perfectly. And oftentimes what that means is I end up desoldering and resoldering after I build a board. I built a board, I don't think it was M65, it was something else that I built. The whole thing was done, it looked perfect to me when I was checking it out, and then I put keycaps on, noticed the F key was like turned by a quarter of a millimeter or whatever. So I had to go desolder it, resolder it, and that led me to then realizing that the one to the right of it was slightly off, so it can kind of get crazy. So the reason I say that is that these Zeal designed switches, which are Gateron housings, they fit really tight in the PCB. It makes getting switches straight way easier because you can jam the switches in and they do not move when you're soldering. You don't even really have to push on the board when you solder. But then I started using the box whites, which I really like, and that's what these guys are here. They sound like this. They're real nice. My dog's flipping out down there. They have a real nice click to them, and I really enjoy typing on the whites. But the whites, much like these, have a PCB. The part that goes in the PCB is not big enough, so they just float. And the past two boards that I've soldered with those switches have been really difficult to get them straight. I've had to desolder and resolder several times, and while I'm soldering, I have to hold everything down really hard, which if you've soldered it all, what ends up happening is, obviously the, let me switch here. The front half of this thing is 555 degrees when it's on. It's not on right now, but the front half of this thing is 555 degrees. So you don't want to get anywhere near it. I've touched it many times. It's the worst feeling because it instantly turns your skin like just hard white. It just destroys it instantly. But so the problem becomes if you have to put a lot of downward pressure on the plate while you're soldering, and maybe other people are better at this, but what I find is what I'm doing is I'm pushing down hard, but I also have to hold the solder to lead it in. So I'm trying to push with like the palms of both hands and with one finger while putting it in. And what I end up with is a soldering iron that's very close to my fingertips to try to get those solders. So what I've sort of adopted style-wise is I'll solder the corners, which I think is what everybody starts with, and then I'll solder the middle, and I try to get those as tight as humanly possible. And then I go through and I solder them, each switch one at a time, but only soldering one leg. So I can push as hard as possible, solder one leg, and then usually it will stay from that point on. Then the second pass is soldering the right legs, or in this case, whatever, left or right legs. But you can go through and do those solders, and those are low pressure solders because the switch is already held very tight to the thing. So I can push just a little bit, but it's not as difficult. So this this switch, or this PCB, I think is what we're gonna do. I should probably test it. Let's plug it in. Make sure it turns on. This is something I never actually really do, which is real stupid. Let's see, God, it's a real gross. Okay. It's a good sign when all the LEDs work. Generally. Yeah, okay, cool. So, let's, so all this stuff that I'm gonna build in this build, which I'm not gonna have time to build this whole thing right now. I'm just gonna sort of talk about what I'm gonna build, and this was just, more than anything, this is a bit of a testing stream, and I appreciate you guys sticking around. A few of you that have, I appreciate it. But here's what I think what I'm gonna do. I've got one other thing to figure out. I've got a couple of different plate options. So it's gonna be built in this titanium case, this gray case, right? They sent it with this plate. I don't like this plate. I don't like brushed stainless. I think it looks real cheap. And I don't know that I like the sound of it so much. It's a little twang, like, I don't know what the word would be. Not twangy, but. So I bought some other plates, and I've really enjoyed typing on a keyboard I built 6 or 7 months ago on carbon fiber, because I really like the way it sounds when the switches hit it, or the keys hit it. So I have a couple of carbon fiber options. I have the one that I stuck on this board, which I just don't think is gonna fit because it's a Centrac 60 carbon fiber thing, and I think it's gonna have the same problem. But I bought, from 1UP Keyboards, I bought an HHKB layout specific carbon fiber case, or carbon fiber plate. And I bet, because they do a lot of GH60 stuff, since this is just basically a GH60, I'm betting it will fit exactly, and whew, it's real close. I'm betting that will work just fine. Huge benefit of this one compared to this one. So there's a downside of this one, which is that the HHKB layout uses a 7U space, which is the longer one. And because this plate is universal and trying to cover like a bunch of different cases, it has this, or use cases, it has these openings on the sides of the stabilizer here. And you can see these. So even when you put the caps on, when you look down into the keyboard, you can see that gap. You can see the white PCB. It's not a huge deal, but I don't really like it that much. The benefit of this is that this is designed specifically for the HHKB layout, so it only has space for the 7U spacebar, and then is blacked out with, you know, the plate here, so you wouldn't see it, which I like. So that's a huge benefit there. But a late contender, sorry, one of my lights in the corner here just turned off randomly. A late contender is this gorgeous plate that came from, where did this come from? Keyclack. And this is a brass plate coated in PVD, I think is what it's called, PVD. Oh, you know what? This might be, it doesn't matter anyway, this can't be used. Ha, that's funny. This won't work because this does not support, I forgot when I bought this, this is for a different board. This does not work because this will not, so you can see here why it won't work. Well, maybe it's a little difficult to see, but it will not support 7U spacebar. So, never mind. But this is a beautiful, beautiful plate. I mean, like, it's kind of hard to show it off. It's very shiny, and it's got that, I don't know what PVD is. I assume some sort of, it almost looks like plastic. I don't know. On top of a brass plate. It's really heavy, really shiny, feels really nice. But yeah, it's not gonna work, so screw that. All right, so I think it's gonna be these two. Let's just do a test fit before we screw around more. Let's get rid of this silver plate. I don't think I'm ever gonna use that, to be honest. So I think then, Centrax 60, which is kind of a dumb waste because these won't be visible. But I think the Centrax 60 board could end up being the clip board, the clipe. The clipe. Oh, so actually then, let's do, that would be this. Oh, we could use this. Ooh. Yeah, could totally do that. All right, so maybe the brass, the PVD brass plate will go in the clipe. I'm just gonna pick one. How about clip? I like it better. I'll go in the clip case. It's kind of funny. Because this is just like a anodized, I don't know what the word for this is, but like the kind of standard anodized finish that looks a little bit like digital noise. That's how I would describe it. And because this is so shiny and pretty, it's almost kind of doesn't work having one on the other. But with keycaps on, you won't really see it, and I'm very curious to see how this sounds. Okay. Either way, Tina will be using the let's put this here. This guy, the DZ60, and the HHKB carbon fiber guy here. So these guys will go, yeah. And then this, let's just make sure this fits. Oops. I think I might need to actually put a screw in there to keep it in place for a second. All right, hold on, let's put a screw in here. Well, if you're not interested in building mechanical keyboards, then I apologize because this is very inside baseball. But if you are interested in building a mechanical keyboard, everything that I'm holding today, the Tina, this PCB, this plate, and yes, and the switches are all available direct. Though one of the things about this hobby is that you know, most of it honestly comes from group buys. So a lot of times you buy something and you wait, you know, 6 months, and then you finally get it. And then of course, the minute I put something on Instagram or on Twitter or whatever, people say like, oh, where can I get that? And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'll just go back in time, join this buy, and then wait 6 months and you'll have it. These are all readily available. And I'll post links to this stuff in the VOD version of this video. Once I end the stream, I'll put a video up and I'll put links to these components. But you can get all these readily, which is nice. Yeah, that fits. Cool. Cool. And it's got the benefit. Well, still gonna have to. Actually, I'm not even gonna have to electrical tape. Oh no, I can screw those in because those will be below the plate. Well, no, I won't be able to. I'm an idiot. Okay, so these two holes here, right? Just those two, or is it others? Where are we? This way. Which ones will I not be able to use? So I won't be able to screw into that bottom right, bottom left. Bottom right, bottom left. Okay, so just the bottom right and bottom left just can't be used. That's fine. So I'll just leave them be. Cool. All right, those are what we're gonna do. All right, so that's those. That's that decision. Now, the other decision to make, since I think that this will be the actual case in PCB, is switches. This PCB, or this plate, supports switch top removal, so I can always swap the springs and such, but I gotta decide on a housing. And everybody keeps talking about this holy panda thing. So I sort of want to see how it feels. And so here's my thought. The Holy Panda is the pandas with the stems off of clears, halo clears. So I've got this thing that's meant to be used as like a lubing station, but we can use it to, oh, where did I put my switch top guy? Oh, you're there. All right. If you want to get in the hobby, here's pro tip. Buy one of these things from mechanicalkeyboards.com or .net, whichever it is. These are switch top removers. They make this way easier. You take these things. Here, let's switch the close up there, which is actually not that close. All right, just don't want to lose these feet, or I don't want to lose any of this stuff probably. Move that over here. So you put these two guys. Oh shoot! Is this not using a standard? No, it is. Okay. You put these two guys in here. And, actually, it's not using a standard size. You bastards. Oh, man. Are you kidding? Are either of these? Oh, you bastards. Oh, this is going to be so much more of a pain in my ass. Oh, am I not broadcasting a valid... That's funny. Wow. Did I really do that? I just got a Twitter message saying, hey, that link doesn't go to where you want it to go. Did it change its URL? Oh my lord. YouTube, you are the worst. Okay, fix the link. God, that's amazing. That is amazing. All right, let's try this again. Cool. So I sent everybody a link saying, hey, let's do a live stream, and nobody could get into it. I don't even know how you few people who are here did. Boy, oh boy. Okay, that should work. Fix the link. That appears to actually be working now. Cool. Boy, that's real stupid. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. What were we figuring out? Oh, God. That's right. So we're figuring out that these switch tops do not fit my switch top removal tool. Let's try this again. I think I'm going to have to use... Oh, Lord. This is crazy. I've never actually had a switch top that did not fit this tool. Wow. Okay. That sucks. Okay, so then to do this, I'm gonna have to do this way more manually, and that is not fun. Let's check something. Let's check something. I'll tell you, this might derail my my idea of using Holy Pandas. If I've got to do this manually for every single switch, I'm not gonna bother with that. I just want to see how difficult it would be to get these tops off. I could fashion a I wonder if the old binder clip trick would work. So sometimes you can. Part of the reason that I bought the little switch top tool was that The music in this royalty-free collection has some odd choices. That was just a cat screaming, it sounded like. All right, let's see. God, this switch top does not want to come off. This is going to be a real pain. One of the reasons I bought that switch top remover is so you wouldn't have to do this nonsense. And these switches have the holes for it, but they're too small. They're too narrow. The switch top remover is like, you know, decent thickness. Let's see if I can even get this off easily. Okay. So, bye spring. See you later. Well, that's a real pain. So, the idea is that you get rid of the stem. And you bring in the stem from... Oh my god, how do you even take the stem off? Or the case off? Holy crap. I've never seen a case like this. Actually, I guess I've just never taken a... or tried to take apart a Kale switch before. It has... very odd... Huh, okay. Oh my god, that's... If I had to do this 60 times... 65 times or whatever. Oh my god. This is insane. There's got to be a better way to do this. I'm going to have to research how to take Kale switches apart in a more logical way, because this is nuts. This would take me hours. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all. I'm so afraid I'm going to stab myself because I'm right on the verge of doing it. Okay, let's see if I can get... I hear kids running around. Oh my god. Wow. Okay. I hear sad kids. Okay. Well, this sort of changes my plans because this is insane, and I'm not going to be able to pull... I'm not want to pull apart 60 of these guys. Oh my god. You get spoiled by... Jesus. You get spoiled by your tools working in the way you expect, and then suddenly I've got two different key switches that just... Oh my god. Okay, I must be missing something here, because that is real... Oh boy. Okay, let's try it. Ow. Knew I was going to hurt myself. Try getting this guy under here. I need like a wedge. Let's try this guy. I thought this was going to be easier. If these were both... If they both had standard switch top style, I could just pop them both off, and it doesn't take that long. But if these guys are so difficult to remove the... Sorry, I'm not even in the camera here. I'm trying to get... So normally... Let's see if I show you a regular switch here. Yeah, the Telio is regular. Normally, you can put these tools into both sides of this, like this, and then you just pinch, and you... Hard to do this without having it in a support, but you basically pinch, and you pull the top off, and it's easy. And then they can snap right back on. But these guys have those holes, those slots, but they're narrow. So my tool for it doesn't fit in there, which seems insane. But I guess I could fashion a narrow... So these I could get off. The pandas, I could get them off. The switch tops off. But then the Kales don't have those at all. And they have like a plastic nub here that's very flush to the base. And I can't even get leverage on it. What happened to my... Let's see here. I can't get leverage on this guy. I'm gonna break my nails doing it. I can get one side. I got one side, but like, again, if this was something I had to do 65 times, and we're talking about like hours and hours and hours worth of work. So I should ask the top clack guys how they did this easily. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just have more of a stomach for it than I do, because I definitely do not have a stomach for this kind of nonsense. If I have to get... I can't even get under this other side. I'm just gonna end up breaking the switch top. The thin ones here. There's just absolutely no gap here at all. I cannot get, I can't get anything under here to get it out. And I thought at first I was missing something, but the more I look at it, it's definitely like you would have to get this piece of plastic up. I'm gonna break this switch doing this too. Okay, this is changing my plans because now I'm thinking, oh, okay, I got it under there. Maybe I could do it if I did it that way every time. Okay, there's the top. Oop. That's the fun part about taking apart switches. I immediately lose the stems or springs every damn time. All right, thankfully I didn't go too far. So now we've got the, now we've got the halo clear stem, which is tactile. So we're making a linear switch, a linear base. Oh, I've just confused the switch or the springs there. That's funny. So I'd actually have to look and see which one that was. Hold on. It's a pretty shoddy operation I've got going here. So let's see if I can get this apart easier this time. Because if I can learn to get these apart easier, then this becomes, Jesus, this becomes more reasonable. Okay, I'm gonna go in from the bottom. Aha, on the pandas, if you're going from the bottom, this is easy. Or easier, at least. Okay, so that's actually not bad. In a weird way, that's actually kind of easier than taking apart switches by the top because you don't have to pinch it as much. Okay, so that I can do. And that's the shiny spring. Okay, pandas are shiny springs. All right, so the idea is you take the panda housing, the panda spring, but the halo clear stem. And the other thing is you lube it. Now, I don't have thin lube here, which I've been told is the better lube for this thing. I only have thick lube. So these cases support, or this PCB, or plate, sorry, supports switch top removal. So I could lube it later so I can get them off when they're in the board. Let's see. All right, so that's one. Oh, wow, that's heavy. Oh God, that's such a weird feel. Hard to describe. The bump is really heavy and you bottom out really easily. So in the panda I don't bottom out as easily. This one I feel like I'm smacking the bottom. How? I wonder. Maybe the stem on, or the base of the stem here is longer on the Kale switches. I don't know. Boy, God, that's real difficult to get apart. I don't know. Like it's technically doable, but jeez. Okay. Let me see here. I'm just gonna compare these stems. Oh yeah, that stem is way longer. Okay, so you definitely bottom out instantly. So if we're taking the panda spring, panda housing, halo clear, and where's my top? I think I would need, in an annoying fashion, I would need to make like a whole board's worth of these and try typing on it before I would know for sure if I wanted it, and that's a lot of effort. Especially the way these awful, Jesus, the way these awful, oh wait, that's not, okay, hold on a second. The way they look, it's hard to tell the difference between the panda base and the halo base. Well, it's hard if you don't pay attention. Yep, okay. Okay. Let's try this. Okay. Oof. God, the bottom out is nuts. It's like hitting a brick wall. Oh my God. Let's throw some caps on that, because that, I don't know. I might rule this out on myself, like right away. Huh. Actually, I don't even have one on a standard panda here. I'm just curious. All right, so that's just a linear. I actually don't. Bottom out is nuts. Like I really, honestly, my fingers feel like they're hitting a brick wall. I don't know if that's a good thing. Just hold on. Let's throw a couple of Telios in this thing and see what they feel like. Because I haven't actually really, I've never used them before. Generally, I'm not a linear person, actually. Across the board, keyboards or otherwise. Oh, sorry, I stopped paying attention to chat because initially nobody was really here because the link didn't work. Yeah, this is just a little, it was designed specifically for lubing switches so you can pop them off. So I'm just trying to sort of screwing around here. How much soldering is involved? A fair amount, but it's really easy. I was terrified about soldering when I first did it, and my first board that I built, it took me like 4 or 5 hours to solder the board because I was so nervous. But then I got better at it pretty quickly, and it's actually, being able to solder is actually super fun because then I suddenly was like, oh, if I had to, I could solder anything. Granted, I don't solder anything, but and then you have to learn to desolder, which is pretty easy because you just basically use a suction pump to, like, you heat up the solder, pop it off, but that's a separate thing. But once you learn how to solder and desolder, you can build any board and also repair any board pretty much, which is really neat. Yeah, sorry about the beard. Work has been a little crazy, and we have 2 preschoolers, and there's never time for anything, and so shaving is one of the first things that falls off for me. Okay, so this one is the panda switch, unmodified linear panda switch. These ones on the right are unmodified Zelio linear switches. They actually don't, honestly, they don't feel that much different. Yeah. And then these ones are the panda housing, panda spring with the halo clear stem, which is the linear well, the housing doesn't matter, I guess, but like the housing and the spring, and then the tactile stem. And so let's see if I can show you this clearer. Craig sent a message, said this is held for review because he called me a fucking nerd and I have spam protection on. That's not spam, that's just true. That is just true. Okay, so this is why it's hard to explain this. The most important thing for me, part of the reason I got into doing keyboard stuff was I have like repetitive strain on my right hand from years and years of using keyboards and mice. And one of the benefits of building your own keyboards is that you can control the actuation point, you can control the weight, you can control the layout, you can control all that stuff. And that is super cool because it allows you to do whatever you like. And since I switched to using mechanical keyboards, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I have had significantly less pain in my right wrist and elbow. So the important things to me are bottom out force when you hit the bottom, and spring weight. Because the heavier the spring, or stronger, heavier I guess is the word, the more force you have to put on the keys, and the easier it is to bottom out, the more you hit that plate. And over time, pushing harder and hitting the plate gives you fatigue in your fingers. So what I've done in the past is I've been doing light springs. 62 grams generally is where I stuck with Zelios. But I did build a small board with a 65, and I actually kind of liked it better, so it's something I need to change. But bottom out force is something that can really hurt your hands, or bottom out can really hurt your hands. So what you learn to do over time is you get better with picking the springs, and so I'm nervous about a lot of bottoming out. And one thing you can do is type lighter, which you should do anyway. But let me just show you why this is concerning to me, this Holy Panda switch, because if I can find another pair of So the housing has a maximum depth, and all housing seemingly is basically the same, right? There's only so far. Let's see if I can get this in here. It's only so far that the base of the switch can go into that circle there. Sorry, this is not a great. I need to switch this to manual focus so that I can actually do this. But anyway, that middle circle there is where the base of the stem is going to go when you push down, and there's only so much depth there that's available. So depending on how deep the stem is, you know, sort of impacts when you're going to bottom out. And I want to show you why this is so nuts to type on, because if I can get a hold on this thing, if you compare the stems, this is not going to be easy to show off, but if you compare the stems, that's roughly, nope, that's no good. I really need to switch this to manual focus. Basically, the gist is on this guy. No. Okay, I can't really show that off. The stem on the Halo, the part that goes into the board, is like easily 3 millimeters longer, if not 2 millimeters longer, which means that when this stem goes into the housing, it's going to hit the bottom sooner, and it does, because this guy, I can really, well, if I don't pop it out of the tester here, I can really, like, it doesn't feel abnormal. This feels normal, but this, I am just, when you hit that wall, it's intense. Now, if you were to type softer, I actually kind of like the bump. The Halo bump is really harsh, though. It's like the actuation bump is like really in your face. Now, granted, I have linears next to it, so there's no bump. What I should do, okay, let me grab another board. Hold on. Okay. This board is Zelio's 62s. So this has got an actuation bump, or sorry, a tactile bump as well. Here. Okay, so this guy, it's got a bump. I bottom out pretty easily on these, honestly. I do have to type gentler on Zelio's, especially gentler than on the boxes. The boxes, I feel like the click, I should say, stops me from bottoming out a little bit because it's a distinct feeling. These, I have to be a little gentler, but wow. Okay, so these have a distinct, they have a distinct bump, and they're pretty easy to bottom out on. But these have like they're like smacking my fingers. The bump is so intense, and I bottom out instantly. Now, if this was a whole board, maybe it would actually be kind of nice to type on. So what I think I'm doing here is I'm talking myself into taking apart 62, or at least I'm talking myself into putting, you know, 20 of them here, so I can attempt to feel what 20 with a whole hand, what it feels like. Now, granted, I've had problems in the past where like I'm like, oh, these feel good, and then I go to build the board, and then it's actually built, and I go, oh, this feels like crap, because there's a difference between doing just smacking the keys and actually going to work and trying to type code with macros and stuff and actually hitting them. So it is a little hard to tell, but I do kind of like, boy, I wonder if these were lubed a little bit so that they were a little bit smoother, because there's like a real distinct, these aren't lubed actually. I didn't lube this board, which I normally lube the Zeal boards, or the Zelios. I lubed these guys to make them a little quieter. So you can hear the difference between the lubed and the unlubed. Unlubed's a little bit scratchier. Generally, I actually like them both ways. I didn't lube this board because it takes fucking forever to. Okay. So these, if I lube these with thin lube, which I don't have on hand, but I could do that later potentially. Well, the question is, could I? Because one of the problems I'm having is how could I get this? Let's say this was in here and I had to take its top off. Could I? Nope. I'm betting I could, though. I'm betting I could make my own. I'm betting I could make a tool to do that. Because its depth is roughly the same. So that's something I could do after the fact. At least with the plate. Okay. All right, so I've talked myself into doing, like, what, 15 of them? 16 of them, so that I can just feel what it feels like. So that's gonna take a long time. Okay, so there's that. So I think I've talked myself into trying that. I like these Telios, but I don't know if I'd like them on a whole board. I'm not sure. So one thing I could do, here's an option, because I believe, let's just take this, let's open this for a second. I believe the leaf on the Telios is the identical leaf to the Zelios. Come off. Oops, stay in the thing. All right, you know what, this lubing board thing is kind of not working anymore. Let's just look at the leaf here. I can't imagine it's a different leaf, but yeah, it could be actually. How far do I want to take this to test it? Do these have? Do I have a keycap remover? Let's see. Okay, so I think I've made my decisions. I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take apart the pandas and the clears, and I'm gonna make like 16 holy pandas and test the way they feel. In the meantime, I've also decided that the Tina C is gonna have the DH60 and the carbon fiber plate, and that the Cleep is going to have the PVD brass plate, and the Centrac 60, we're going to do Telios on that board. And then if I don't like the Telios, I'll confirm this, but if I don't like the Telios, I can pop the switch tops off and put Zelio stems and springs in them, and then it's just a totally fine usable board. Though I could also just put box whites in it, because I'm nuts. And I love the box whites so much. Okay. Anybody have any questions? I'm gonna go in a minute because I have to keep this short because I got sick kid, sick wife, everybody's sick here. And I know they're home and they're probably wanting me to help out. And this was a good test of, one, figuring out that I need to have different YouTube URLs every time, so that live link is gonna have to be updated. And don't turn off the microphone in an obscure setting on XSplit and then update XSplit right before you go live for the first time. That was stupid. So thank you for coming in here. I'm sorry it was a bit of a mess and I sort of went all over the place. The next time I do this stream, which I'm hoping to do either Monday or Tuesday, and I'll tweet about it, Monday or Tuesday, I want to actually start building this Tina board. So by Tuesday, I will have taken apart enough of these switches to know if it's for me. And if it's for me, I will do enough of them to build the board. And then on Monday or Tuesday, when I stream, I will actually show the fun parts of building a board. I will do, let's see, what will we do? We will do stabilizer stuff. We'll use screw-in stabilizers, and we'll do the Band-Aid mod, which is what I started doing a few months ago and made a huge difference in the sound of the stabilizers. So I'll show that off. And we'll lube a few switches maybe. I'll try to get some thin lube. I won't have it by Tuesday, but I have a thick lube which I can use on the stabilizer so I can show what that is like. And then I'll actually solder some switches and try to build a board. So thanks for tuning in and bearing with me. But I'm excited to actually make some boards on the stream. There's a little bit of housekeeping. I've got all these parts and I just didn't quite know what I was going to build. So now that I have an idea for what to build, I'm going to do that. I have a few things to build after this as well. So there's the Tina, there's the clip, and then if it ever shows up, I have an accent, which is this group buy that went super south and got screwed up, and there's broken parts and they're repairing them, but that should arrive at some point in the near future. And I've got a couple of other things that I'm planning to build, one of which is I want to build a keyboard for my sister, and she wants a full-size keyboard with a number pad. So I have, at some point I joined a group buy for an what's it called, ZZ96, which is like a full board with the like the 10 keyless middle, the arrows and all those, and then the actual 10 keys as well, but it's all in one solid block, so it doesn't have the gaps, which is kind of neat. If those parts ever come in, I'll do that as well. So I have a lot of different stuff to build, and then there's also some maintenance that I need to do on a couple of boards. I have a broken switch on one board, so I'll show how I desolder stuff. There's basically just a bunch of different stuff to do. So I'll try to do this like once a week, and I'll tweet about it before I do it. But thank you very much for tuning in. And I'll post some links to this various stuff that I talked about in here on the video copy that I put up after this. So thank you very much. I appreciate that people complimented my beard and did not cry. Some of you may be crying, I don't know, I can't see your faces. So thank you guys very much, and I will tweet about this next week, and hopefully we'll do another one of these on Monday or Tuesday. So have a nice weekend. Bye.